These recruiting videos are getting very similar of late. CJ Vogel, Longhorns adding another one today. A young man, though, is a little bit different. He's a 2025 commitment. His name is Emaree Winston. He's out of Calhoun, Georgia. He announces at a ceremony today that he's going to be a Longhorn. He becomes the second class of 2025 commitment for Texas. He's a 5A All-State player out of the state of Georgia, 6'3", 235 pounds, had 956 yards receiving a year ago. We're going to watch a little film of him, talk about that. Tell me what you know about him, CJ, as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an exciting prospect from the past, in the passing game specifically. I mean, when you think about the Sarkisian offense at the tight end spot and what we've seen from Ja'Tavion Sanders, this is the mold that you're going to see at the tight end spot, and Emaree Winston fits it. You know, he's a guy that can stretch the field. He's a mismatch for any linebacker that you'll see in the high school ranks at the moment. And that's very encouraging whenever you consider what we've seen from the tight end position in the passing game so far under Sarkisian. I love what he brings to the table in terms of getting down the field vertically and also after the catch. It's very, very I guess specifically one of my favorite 2025 prospects right there. I'm a big fan.
All right. Yeah, I feel like when you talk about JT Sanders and kind of mention his name, it elicits a certain reaction. The thing that I like, you know, he's at Calhoun, Georgia. They clearly use him in the H-back role, as you can see. They use him flexed out. They motion him out of the backfield. Absolutely. They play him in line. He's like JT Sanders. They use him a bunch of different ways. He may be a little further along in some ways of development than JT, because JT in high school never played in line. He was always flexed out way outside, right? Right. But look, how many tight ends in high school football have 956 yards receiving? The thing that he is very similar about with JT Sanders, and I would say this and make sure I want to make this point, hands. I mean, he's got flypaper. Yes. You can tell that he snags the ball. It's not a, oh, let me catch it with my gut, or I'm kind of bobbling it as I catch it. It's a clean catch, and that allows for more yards after catch, right? And that's one of the things that those people, a lot of people won't catch up on or won't catch on to, but he is a clean catcher of the football and something that allow for more yards after catch, whether that's coming, frankly, from Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning or KJ Lacey or whoever. That's what Emaree Winston brings to the table. Tell us a little bit about his recruiting. There were several different hats, you know, talked around, or different schools talked about. Tell us about his recruiting situation, CJ.
Yeah, Texas offered back in April, and really it didn't feel like there was much movement in that recruitment on the Texas side of things. Entering the football season, Emaree actually dropped the top 6 that did not include Texas at the time. And so there was a late push as the season progressed, and obviously the on-field play helped. And the play of JT Sanders early in the season really caught the attention of Winston in terms of moving Texas up the leaderboard here. It wasn't until, I believe, the Red River Shootout game where Texas really started to make a push. They got him on into Dallas to watch the game. After that, a top 3 dropped, and Texas was right there. What do you know? You know, it really kind of felt like after a snap, Texas was in the mix there. And sure enough, after getting him on campus in early November, that conversation he had with JT Sanders on campus, really getting to see his involvement in the recruitment, or on the football field, excuse me, boosted his ranks and how he felt about Texas right away. So a really, really strong push by Jeff Banks and that Texas staff to get him from outside the top 6 into, well, where he wanted to play football.
Well, you mentioned that attending the Texas OU game, then coming later for an individual visit to Texas. This is a junior, by the way, so he had to pay for it on his own. It couldn't be an official visit, and that showed real interest in the Longhorns. Ohio State and Central Florida, the other 2 finalists. Really, it came down to Texas and Ohio State, and this is interesting because Texas hasn't beaten out Ohio State a lot. Out of state for kids, right? That doesn't happen that often, or hasn't up until this point. And I think it marks kind of a place in time where that's going to happen more and more frequently, potentially. I want to add this about Emaree. He becomes the second commitment of this recruiting campaign for 2025. The first is KJ Lacey out of Saraland High School in Alabama, which is in the Mobile area.
Yep.
That gives Texas 2 commitments for the class of 2025. Neither of them are from the state of Texas. They're in the deep South, Georgia and Calhoun, Georgia, and Mobile, Alabama. You know that if Sark really went out and pushed for some guys in state right now, he'd likely have some in-state commitments too.
Definitely.
What does this say about Texas and where they're going with recruiting, not in 2024, because we're already seeing the fruits of their labor here and what the impact has been. What are they looking for in 2025 that may be just a tad different than what we as Texas fans have become accustomed to, CJ?
Yeah, no, it's dipping your toes in the SEC territory and striking a flag down in the dirt saying we're here now is what that is, and anytime you see prospects from that Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama area, I mean, I always consider them to be from a different breeding ground than what we've seen in Texas high school football, even though, we largely consider Texas high school football to be king. Anytime they consider your school to be, one that they want to play for, you take a much deeper, harder look into what they bring to the table physically as a result. And so I love it. I think as a result of Texas playing well on the field, it allows you to branch out nationally to places where you normally probably wouldn't have, a fighting chance in these big recruitments. And so certainly encouraging. It also tells me that Texas is picky in where they want to go. They're obviously going to have the home field advantage in the state of Texas. They're going to have the opportunity to fight back into some recruitments where they might have been a little bit late on as a result of, the big bad program in the state. This also allows you, having a good program that, shows a good product on the field, to go out into places where you normally wouldn't have a fighting chance. And this is what this is. It's very encouraging moving forward. And I do think it's something that we'll continue to see as long as Sarkisian is here at Texas.
Yeah, it also talks about momentum, right?
Yeah.
Texas has got momentum on the recruiting trail. And this is part of that, is just you keep adding guys that you think are that way. You mentioned the Deep South, and you mentioned Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. Don't forget about Florida.
Right.
Where Texas is going to sign not only Jarrett Gibson and DeAndre Robinson, the defensive lineman out of Orlando Jones High School. He's also DeAndre. I forgot to mention this once before. He's playing in the U.S. Army All-American game, so he's actually there in the Dallas area this weekend, already getting ready for that, or playing in that. The other thing that I would say to you, CJ, that strikes me is that. You mentioned JT Sanders playing a role in this recruitment. With Jerry Hamilton or yourself or Rod Babers, we've always talked about players recruiting players.
Yes.
And how that is, it's one thing for a coach to talk down to you or try to get on your level. It's another thing when a peer is talking to you and you see them play really well at Alabama, right, with JT Sanders. And then he comes in and plays really well later in the year as well as a focal point of the offense. Your thoughts on that element of what Steve Sarkisian has going for him? Because I think that's like the hidden gem, right? That's the one thing that not everybody has going for them. The players aren't always recruiting players on other campuses, especially not when half of them are leaving via the portal at some
right.
place.
And Bobby, you can probably attest to this a little bit more after this point, but what a 180 from where it was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Unbelievable.
When players or prospects would come to campus and, it was almost the complete opposite pitch from the team. This probably isn't the place where you want to be if you're looking to make that jump to the NFL. It's a complete 180. And Texas fans should be at home thinking, this is a well-oiled machine right now. And at the moment, there's not really signs of slowing down. It's great from the Texas side of things. And again, it certainly helps when you have a guy like JT Sanders who's been through it all. He didn't play his freshman year. He bought into the coaching staff and he bought into the path of development and the mission that he had set for him with this coaching staff. It shows you all the trust and faith put into that staff and is, hey, look at me now, look at where we're at, and look at the stats we're putting up offensively. Come be a part of it. That's the mission. And again, Bobby, like I said, a complete 180. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is, because I've been covering this team for a long time, and recruiting in particular, CJ, and it goes in waves, it goes in cycles. But the fundamental issue with that Tom Herman had, he can recruit really well. He's actually a good recruiter.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of advocates for him.
Absolutely.
On the team. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling vacuum cleaners or recruits or whatever, you need advocates, or a pen. Yeah. You need advocates, right? And I think in football, there's nothing better than your actual teammates, right? That you're going to be a part of. And so I agree with you, CJ. That happened. Charlie Strong's team recruited for him now, and most of Mac Brown's teams recruited for him. But that didn't happen with Tom Herman, because I think that he just had such a hard charging style on the field that it didn't attract players. But Sark seems to have met the delicate balance of not only hey, we're going to be stern about what we do, and we're going to have rules, as well as, hey, we're going to have fun, and football's supposed to be fun. So I agree. And Emaree Winston now is part of that, and I will go back to him a little bit. I think he's terrific, because I think that there's nothing better than a natural pass catcher if he gets into the route tree, right? Especially tight end. You see a lot of yards after catch because of that. He's not exactly – he's not the fastest guy, but he's fast. He's not the tallest guy, but he's got long arms, right? To your point, he can create some mismatches, not only at the linebacker level, but in seams down the middle, I think. Absolutely. And that's, Steve Sarkisian, the great thing we can say about Steve Sarkisian, if you can score touchdowns, if you can be a difference maker in the game, he's going to find a way to get you the football. And that's, the more talent he has, the more assets he has to deploy, the better team Texas is going to be. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Congratulations to Emaree Winston. Just a terrific pickup for the Longhorns. Becomes the second commitment of the 2025 class. And for CJ Vogel, I'm Bobby Burton. And for Emaree Winston, hook 'em, buddy. Congratulations.